myself again.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Sunday night, which means it is me and Miss Blades. How are you, Holly?
I'm good. How are you? Apart from that journey yesterday, of course.
Well, I'm just speaking before we came on air. We're both frozen to the bone and absolutely knackered, weren't we?
Yeah, definitely. The train was certainly testing a few people's patience, I think.
There's no doubt about that. Speaking of the train, we've got to say a big thank you to Milligan's Bakery. And the reason we've got to say thank you to them, Holly, is why?
Milligans were kind enough to gift us with some food after we give them a little bit of a shout out when we tried the kebab pasty. Well, when Steve tried the kebab pasty, so they gave us a big selection of food to try, definitely more than we could manage. So we're happy to share that out with a few people on the train as well.
Yeah, thank you, Milligans. Thank you for reaching out. And it's just nice to know that we've got people far and wide who watch the show. But a good local business like Milligans, big thank you to them. They have got their festive range, which is back on. So give that a look in your local Milligans shop. And they have got a sharing box, which is quite a novel idea. Savoury sausage roll, mini mince pie, quiche, a selection of sandwiches. And then for your sweet, a selection of caramel squares, rice buns, donuts, and Shrewsbury biscuits. Just call your Milligan store. And yeah, that's a little bit of free advertising for you, just as a thank you, really, from me and Holly. And I didn't have the kebab pasty yesterday. I stuck with a good old-fashioned cheese and onion, which was my favourite. And I know your dad went for the corned beef, I think, which, again, was nice. But very nice. Thank you for doing that. And I know there was a lot of happy Newcastle United supporters who we shared that with yesterday. So thank you a lot for that. Okay. Apart from the trip down there, which was a bit of a nightmare, and we've got to say, Eleanor got with there. It was an hour late with train. Well, an hour and 5 minutes late departing Newcastle. Obviously, then those who decided to get on the Doncaster train got to Doncaster and then got on the train and obviously had standing room only. But we got there, we got out to London and we managed to get across and only missed 5 minutes of the game. So we can still give a really good account of what we thought of it. What was your take on the game itself, Holly?
First half, I thought was good. Very promising. You were starting to think maybe we can manage to get something out of this game. My prediction was actually 2-0, but I thought the first half we were going to be a lot more poor than we did. Yeah, so that was quite promising, but then the second half, ultimately, I was starting to worry because, when you haven't scored a goal, that Arsenal are more likely to come out on the front foot in the second half, and they did do that. We weren't the greatest. I thought Martin Dubravka was fantastic. He definitely kept the score down. It probably could have been 3 or 4-0 if he wasn't in the goal. The defence did improve a lot. The midfield was decent, but ultimately it was the attack that let us down this week. So I think that was opposite of the Brentford game because it was obviously the keeper and the defence that let us down. And then this week I felt it was more the attack. I thought Wilson wasn't really in the game at all. ASM wasn't really in the game either. Substitutions weren't very effective, and ultimately I just think we found it very difficult to break Arsenal down.
Who was your man of the match, Holly?
Man of the match, probably Martin Dubravka. Close second, Emil Kraft. I think Kraft was also very good. Didn't really put a foot wrong. Went in for every kind of tackle. Very solid at the back. But Martin Dubravka, it was fantastic to see him back in. He really does remind you why he's so important in that side. He's absolutely class. I think every save that he made was perfect. Of course, we did concede 2 goals, but he couldn't really do much more about it. And I think he definitely does deserve to stay in that team because he's head and shoulders above Caldalo.
Yeah, I mean, again, people have mixed opinions on Dubravka, people blaming him for goals, etc. But ultimately, you've got to remember what he did in that first half. I mean, we went in half-time 0-0. He pulled off some really good saves, and that was his first game back. I thought he deserved man of the match. Don't think there was anybody head and shoulders above him on the pitch. I thought Shelvey probably put in another decent shift. Probably wasn't as good as the week before, but we were playing Arsenal at Arsenal. But he had a really good shot on goal, not once but twice. He was tracking back again. I thought ASM was fairly redundant. Didn't get a great deal of the ball when he got it. He wasted it. I thought Richie was poor. Not very often I'm going to say that, but I thought Richie was poor. Again, not his preferred position. He just doesn't play well there. And I think he let himself down. Obviously was substituted. Back four, obviously back four defence, three at the back was started with. Shaw had a better game, but I thought Lascelles again was poor. And I genuinely feel Fraser, there's a player in there. I think Fraser certainly was, given the ball a lot yesterday. Eddie Howe clearly knows him from his time at Bournemouth, and I feel he's been given a bit of a new lease of life. Callum Wilson, he's going to have good days, he's going to have bad days. Didn't really get the service, didn't get the chances, and I felt he could have stayed on his feet. We had a really good view, Holly, didn't we, where we were standing, of Callum Wilson coming through, and I felt he went to ground just too easily. I think he probably could have stayed on his feet and at least got a shot away. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know a few people are calling for a penalty, but I think ultimately he just went down far too easily. And he shouldn't really have done that. He could have had a shot and we would have been more likely to score. But yeah, he has been very, very isolated with Callum Wilson. It is disappointing to see. I feel as though he's been very poor now for weeks and weeks. I can't even think to when it dates back to, but I think for a long time he's been poor. And ultimately, I just think he's not getting that service, and the system we're playing isn't really suiting him. It's a question, and then what are you going to do to try and sort that out, which I think is our biggest problem.
Yeah, you need some help up there. Joe Linton, again, impressive in fits and starts, but again, it's just not doing it for me. And yeah, I mean, again, let's not get too down here. This was Arsenal away. Anything was a bonus, and I know me and you had a laugh yesterday because you're saying, "Oh God, you're always optimistic." You got the scoreline right. You said it was going to be 2-0. I just try to keep myself in a happier place as far as Newcastle's concerned, and try to be optimistic. And I'll do the same for these next two games coming up this week, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, I've been there, done it, got the T-shirt. I've been negative, and it doesn't make watching Newcastle any more enjoyable if you feel as if you're going to get beat every week. So I just go with a newfound optimism, hoping that something's going to happen. God, this week's so important. We'll come to that though. Let's go to the questions. Let's go to the chat. Let's get you involved. Tom Dixon says, with Lascelles being suspended for the next game, who would you have in to replace him? Not the only person, of course, but I mean, we had players who went in on bookings yesterday, but yeah, Lascelles is going to miss a one-match suspension. Who would you have in, Holly?
Federico Fernandez, easy choice for me. Hasn't been in the side for quite a long time, but I think he's a fantastic centre-back, and I think he'd play well with Fabian Shaw as well if he stays in the team.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I personally feel that Fernandez is the only choice. But what on earth has gone on? What has happened at the club which has prevented him from playing? I really do not understand why he's not getting a game. Next week will be important. Tuesday will be important. Let's see whether he's involved. If not, we need some kind of explanation from the club as to why he's not getting the game, I think. Same with Dwight Gale. Why is he not involved? Please answer on a postcard. Somebody at NUFC. Tom says, evening. Glad you made most of the game. Oh, Tom, yes, I remember you saying yesterday he was on the platform, same as at me in Newcastle. He decided to about turn and go. Decided the bailout at Durham, it was seemingly like it would be massively late. Oh, well, got a full refund on the train tickets at least. Yeah, sorry to see that, Tom. It was a decision everybody had to make. As I say, people jumped on the Doncaster train, got the Doncaster. I certainly wouldn't have done that because obviously we could have been stuck there. And I wasn't staying in London like some of my mates were. Who had a great night, by the way. God, the message group's been quite hilarious watching that. But yeah, it's down to personal choice, and at least you got your money back on the train. Oliver says, hopefully that was the last game for Lascelles. I think there's a lot of people who would agree with you. I don't think it will be though. But yeah, let's hope whoever comes in on Tuesday does well. We'll get 3 points, and we can take that into the game on Saturday, and you can do the same. And then it's going to give Eddie Howe some serious questions, I guess. I think it's time to get 11 new men and 7 new subs, says Private Eye. Wow. I don't think things are that bad, but it's bad. I don't think it's that bad. Would you go as far as getting a brand new team, Holly?
In time, yes, but in the short term, I think the team is good enough to stay up, and I think we've seen an instant improvement since Eddie Howe's came in. I just think we really need to prioritise getting someone that can support Callum Wilson, and obviously get a couple of defenders in to strengthen the back 4 or 5 or whatever we decide to play.
You think this team's good enough to stay up? Yeah.
With a few additions, yeah.
With a few additions, okay. Yeah, I would agree, but again, it's another question mark. How much are we going to be spending? Are we going to be going for loans? Are players going to want to come to Newcastle if they're in the bottom 3 still by the turn of the year? Lots of unanswered questions. Oliver, we're always harsh on players if they don't pull their weight. In fact, sometimes we get hammered for being too harsh on this show. But yeah, we I don't think we give an unfair assessment. And again, it's all about opinions. That's what it's all about. And nobody's opinion is right. It's all about opinions. That's what makes it interesting. That's why people watch. Darren Cowan says, watching yesterday was like Bruce was still there. Seen this on Twitter as well. The sooner January comes, the better, and get some quality defenders in. I think it's a bit unfair because I think there's definitely signs of improvement. Not massive. We still got beat. We still haven't won a game in the Premier League. But there are small signs of improvement in certain areas. Fitness, Holly.
Yeah, I do agree. I think there's definite signs of improvement. I mean, I said to you that 2-0 was my positive prediction, and I wasn't even lying saying that, because 2-0, it's not that bad of it. Obviously, it's a defeat and we need results, but it's not like we were getting absolutely thrashed. Whereas I think under Steve Bruce, it probably would have been 4 or 5-0, and I think that's the difference. I do think we've had that bit of a lift. The players are stepping up and performing a lot more. John Joe Shelby's a prime example. So I think it will take time, but I think we have seen improvement, and I certainly don't think it was like Steve Bruce was still in the dugout.
No, me neither. And it's a big relief off the pitch as well, isn't it? I mean, yesterday, and it was bitterly cold. I mean, I had a bit of frostbite when I got in last night. I was that cold. My feet never really recovered. But that's part and parcel of going on the road with Newcastle United. But yeah, I think it was just a lot better atmosphere in the away end as well, wasn't it? People were singing, they were keeping the team going, and Eddie Howe's Black and White Army got a big errand on more than one occasion. Gary Speed got a posthumous song right at the start of the game. Speedo was echoing around the Emirates, and all in all, a very cold but a very energetic and supportive support on the road yesterday.
Yes, it's very refreshing to see. Of course, Mike Ashley's last game was the Wolves away game. I think that was one of the worst atmospheres in a long time. Yeah, by your face there, it says it all. Horrendous, flat. It was just a miserable day. But despite the results, despite the fact that we're bottom of the league, the fans are still very much behind the team, which is exactly what we need. You would have thought at full time we were the ones that were winning 2-0, because the Arsenal fans, they left early, they weren't singing. One of their players came over at one point encouraging them to sing.
Gabriel.
We outsung the whole of the Emirates, so I think that says all you need to say.
Yeah, it was great. Good to be part of that yesterday, and I think it just made it all the more interesting. Just showing how well everybody worked together on and off the pitch. There's a connectivity again. The team and the supporters feel connected, and I think that can only be a positive as we move forward. Oliver says, "How was the journey home?" Oh, wow, so much to tell you in so short a time to tell you. How much of the first half did you miss? And seems like a wasted journey. Well, we only missed 5 minutes. We did anyway. We were we knew where we were going when we got there, so it was quite easy. 5 minutes we missed. The journey home, it was interesting to say the least. We had Pilly's on at Doncaster trying to evict some Newcastle fans who sat in a seat. They sat in first class because they said they were told to sit in first class by the person on the train that they came down in, because they had such a bad experience coming down. Whether it was true or not, I don't know, but maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But the police came on, they were going to evict them. Instead, they moved them down to standard class. Then we had a load of Sunderland fans on, because Sunderland fans were playing Cambridge. I didn't see any of them. I know Holly did, but Sunderland fans on. And then there was trouble between Barnsley fans and somebody. There was Barnsley who were playing Peterborough. Barnsley were playing Peterborough, I think, and we had some bashing of the roof of the train. All in all, for Holly, it was a bit of a nightmare. I was sitting at the complete opposite end of the train, just chatting away to the like-minded Newcastle fans about Newcastle United. We were reminiscing about the 1980s, and I had a great time with a guy called Steve and his 2 sons who were coming back from the match. And we were just chatting about days gone by. And then we were joined by a guy who was sitting behind us who'd been to a lot of the games that we all were talking about. So, yeah, it was all right. The journey back was all right. What about you, Holly?
The journey back was awful, to say the least. I couldn't wait to get off the train. I think it must have been about half an hour before we're due to get off the train, and I was just stood at the door waiting to get off. It was horrible. Just absolute hell. That's all I can say.
Yes, yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. The good thing is we were sitting together on the way down, so we got to share the Milligans. But on the way back, it was a bit of a nightmare. So never mind. The next 3 away games that we got booked up, which is of course Leicester, Liverpool, and Everton. As I tweeted earlier, your dad's got his cassette deck ready. We've got Jimmy Nail primed. We've got your mum's festive sandwiches all ready to go. Yeah, we're looking forward to 3 away trips, and we won't have to worry about trains.
Thank God for that, but I'm not looking forward to the songs, that's for sure.
Dave Harrison says, will Eddie Howe bring back Fernandes, and who do you think will replace Richie? Richie, of course, is going to miss out as well. We've covered the Fernandes issue, and we both think Fernandes would be the natural replacement. We hope he is. What about Richie? How do you see that panning out? I guess Dummett might be fit. I doubt it, though. Lewis, do you think he's going to get a chance? Who would you like to see in there? Who do you think will come in?
Yeah, I think Jamal Lewis has to be the only choice, really, because Paul Dummett probably would have been my preferred player, but he's still struggling with fitness. So Jamal Lewis will have to come in. Maybe then they'll have to change to a back 4, because I think with obviously like 3 centre-backs and 2 wing-backs, I think that leaves us very exposed. And Jamal Lewis likes to get up the pitch just as much as he does defend. And so I think that would kind of leave us vulnerable at the back, which is the last thing we need, considering the amount of goals that we concede. So we might need a bit of a formation change, but I think Jamal Lewis has to be the only option really to replace Matt Ritchie.
Lewis, how are you? Lewis is another guy who we met yesterday. Good to see him. He was up at the ground as well. Met up with Keith Patterson and Liam when we finally announced the takeover back in October. He says, "Hi Steve, nice to meet you on the train heading home from the Arsenal game. Do you think the suspension for Ritchie and Lascelles could actually benefit us in the next game?" Yeah, 100%. And I think this has happened with managers for years, hasn't it? They've inadvertently stumbled on a perfect formation by default. When someone's been suspended, when someone's been injured, suddenly they find someone who goes into a position, or they find that someone who's been sitting on the bench patiently waiting for that chance comes in and suddenly puts in a man of the match performance, and then the rest takes its course, and they remain in the team. I genuinely feel that we will find a better formation, and it makes Eddie Howe's job easier, because the last thing you want when you come in as a new manager, coach, whatever, is to come in and drop somebody, and then there's bad feeling in the dressing room. If that person can only blame themselves for missing out, and then someone comes in and does a better job than them, they've got to wait, and as that person did, to take over their position. So I think it'll be a blessing in disguise. I think Lascelles really is deserving a rest and a time out the team. But it all depends on who he brings in. And Holly and I both want to see Fernandes in. I'm sure you probably do as well, Lewis. And, I think most of us agree he's the best defender at the club. And maybe that will be that position sorted for the rest of the season, unless there's an injury or suspension. The left back situation, exactly the same, or the left wing back, whichever formation we go with. I think it's going to take Eddie Howe and his team to look at Lewis and try and get a player out of him, because he's naturally the one you would select. Dummett's a good defender, but he's not quick. He'll he can keep the offside. He can play the offside trap. He can get stuck in. He'll put the ball and the player into row Z, without getting a booking. But he's never gonna, he's not going to be able to sprint up the wing and whip in a cross. So it down to Eddie Howe to work out who his best person is in that position. I personally, again, and I've said this before, said it to fans yesterday, and I've said it on the podcast, I would play Manquillo. However, Kraft, I don't think he's played badly in recent games. There's a player in Kraft, and maybe if there's a position he hasn't played, could we play Kraft at left back? Could you play Manquillo in at right back? And if you go for a flat back 4, Fernandes and Shaw, maybe that would be the best formation for now. It's lots of questions. It's without the answers, and it's only gonna develop over the next few weeks as Eddie Howe gets to know his squad more. But yeah, I think, answering your question, and I've gone the long way around about answering it, is, do I think it'll benefit it? Yes, I do. Holly, do you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it will. I think it's time that Lascelles has dropped from that team. He kind of gets the place because he's the captain. He doesn't really deserve the captain's armband, which we've said for a long time, but he just needs to have that kind of break from the team. And I think Matt Ritchie has been poor for a few games, although I thought he did get a lot of harsh feedback at the Brentford game because I thought some of his crossing and his passing wasn't that bad, but I can understand why he did get some stick. I just thought it was a little bit harsh.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But yeah, Lewis, thanks for that. And it was good to meet you, mate, and hopefully see you on the road again over the next few weeks. Just give us a shout on social media, let us know. And always happy to meet up with people before the match if we can as well, and let you know what our plans are for the next few away games. Okay, next point comes from Lee. He goes, defensive frailties there for all to see. Top marks for persevering to get there, though, all who travelled. Yeah, 100%. Tom just wants to know if you've tried a festive bake from Greg's.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah, me too. Not recently, though. Not had one recently. Too busy eating all these Milligans goodies that Holly seems to be managing to get a hold of. Tells us, massive 2 games coming up. Must win. Here's hoping that. How are the lads? Keep the faith. Yeah, lots of people saying exactly that as well. Private Eye says, big shout out to Greg's. You should stick your email address down. They might send you something, mate, for sticking that up there. He also, what else did he say? Private Eye, he said something else earlier. I've missed it now. It's gone. But he did say something else earlier. I think it was something about 4 shots and none on target. Yeah, exactly. Possession, I didn't check the possession stats out, but again, I'm sure they were a lot better than has been under the previous manager. Paul says, well, with the worst back 4 I've ever seen in the Premiership, I think we're down. The captain is a joke. Yeah, I don't think we'll disagree on the captain as a joke. I don't think we've played our best defence yet. But Holly, I think a lot of people feel as if we're already down. And I saw a really good tweet, and I can't remember who it was today, but they went, if a team can win the Premier League when they're 12 points behind, then a team that's 6 points adrift in November can certainly stay up. I thought that was quite a good tweet this week.
Yeah, well, I think it's not over till it's over, isn't it? You know, you've got to wait till it's mathematically confirmed and stuff. But for me, I've been in the mindset for a few weeks now that we're just going down. And then if that changes, then brilliant. But it's just, well, obviously we haven't won a game all season. And you look at that side and we're still struggling. We've got a new manager in, of course. But I think until we get a few players through the door, we're not going to massively improve. And that isn't going to happen until January. If we don't win a game until January, I think then, you know, you've got to kind of admit, basically we're going down. We're just dropping further and further down the league, still bottom of the league. It doesn't make good reading at all. And then in January, it depends who we bring in. I think we're going to have to target the loan market mainly because I can't see many people want to sign on a permanent deal. And it just depends if we can get the right loans. But I'm not too worried because, like, if it was under Mike Ashley, I would have been panicking by now, dreading what was to come in the next few months. But I think if we go down, it's not the best thing, of course. You know, you'd rather stay up because it's going to put us back a couple of seasons or whatever. But I do think we'll come back up on the straight away on the first attempt. So I'm not too worried about relegation.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make. Barry says, do you think Joe Linton's great performance was a one-off, Holly?
No, I don't. I think Joe Linton has improved a lot since he first came to the club, in my opinion. He's still not great, obviously, but I thought it was very, very poor in his first season. Since Eddie Howe's came in, I think he's seen that little bit of a lift. He was really good against Brentford, but I think he has got a part to play in this side, and I think certainly in a relegation battle, I think he'll definitely play a part.
Yeah, no, yes, I do think he should have done better with the goals. Look, it wasn't by far Dubravka's best performance, but I think when you realise what kind of injury he's come back from, and that was his first game back in the nets again against a team which is far superior to ours at this moment in time. I think he had a good game, and I genuinely feel that the saves that he made in the first half kept us in it. I think we could have been easily 2, if not 3 goals down in the first half had it not been for Dubravka. I mean, at one point he knocked Kraft out. He was, obviously wasn't completely out of it, but he stunned him. He was good. He was good yesterday. He'll only get better. I still feel in January we need to buy a new goalkeeper. I think a new goalkeeper, although it's not a priority because Dubravka's there and he's fit. I genuinely think we need another goalkeeper, and I think you need to build from the back. We need a good goalkeeper, a good, solid, experienced centre half, another midfield player, central midfield player, and another striker. That's what I would sign in January. 4 players, top of the range players, whether it's on loan deals till the end of the season or if we can get any permanent deals in, that's what I would do. And I think we'll survive, but there need to be players who come in and can play in the Premier League, hit the ground running, and do well. That's my thoughts, though, But yeah, you're right. Definitely should have done better with the goals. Still my man of the match, though, which tells you, how bad the rest of the team performed. Kraft was rubbish, says John. Over the last few games, there's a player in there. That's what I was trying to say about Kraft. I mean, he wasn't rubbish yesterday. He wasn't the worst player on the pitch. But again, wasn't man of the match by a country mile. I just think, if they're gonna have to work with players, then he may well find himself in this. There's something in there that they clearly like it, but it's going to take a lot of time for them to work out, exactly who they want in the team. NUFC TV says, I can't see us beating Norwich. They look up for the relegation fight more than us. 2 wins and a draw in their last 3. Yeah, I mean, it's a point you were making to me yesterday, Holly. You're having a tongue-in-cheek laugh at my optimism, but you were saying, looking at the Norwich game, you're concerned about that game because they are playing well.
Yeah, I am concerned about it. I think the results in and around us in the table aren't going our way either. I'm not even bothering to look too much at the other results because I'm thinking, well, we're not winning games. So ultimately, if we can't win games, we're going to stay stuck at the bottom. But you do have a quick look now and then. They've drawn their last game. Burnley has drawn their last game as well, which is better than a defeat, puts them in better stead. And I think Norwich aren't as bad as we thought they were initially. Of course, we beat them 3-0 in the pre-season friendly, which gives us a little bit more confidence, but it's a pre-season friendly. And I think they'll turn up on Tuesday and I think they'll be up for it. And honestly, I think there's a few fans expecting us to get an easy first win of the season, and I just don't think it's going to be as easy as we think. And I think best prediction from me, if I was being positive, would probably be a 0-0.
Oh, God, that would be awful. That really would be. I hope you're wrong. Completely hope you're wrong. And Burnley not playing today because Burnley and Spurs, of course, was called off because of snow. The weather conditions, adverse weather conditions, mean that now there will be a game in hand. And they will hopefully play a much better Spurs team because that could be a blessing in disguise. Spurs embarrassed themselves in Europe this week, beaten by a butcher and baker and candlestick maker kind of team, part-time team. And from our perspective, Spurs may well have got themselves sorted out, and that could be quite decisive towards the back end of the season when that has to be played.
Yes, Spurs. Not the greatest, but still, they are a good team. They've got some quality players. I think their biggest problem is the Harry Kane situation, in my opinion. I think obviously he's just not playing his best football, and they're very reliant on him, just like we are on Callum Wilson in some ways. But yeah, we are going to struggle. There's some teams in and around us that are doing well. Burnley's game, I think, supposed to be rescheduled for Wednesday, which might give us a little bit of an advantage because there's not that big of a gap in between there, like the Wednesday and the Saturday game, but then we've got one on Tuesday, so I suppose it kind of balances out.
Yeah, it does. I mean, 24 hours can make a big difference with recovery time and training, etc. So yeah, you never know. It's going to be an interesting week. Spurs, of course, as I say, they're not doing well at the moment, and I just think that could be crucial later on in the season. Private Eye says, even in the late 80s, Newcastle always had more than 4 shots on target against top teams. We were shocking in the 80s. Yeah, that was the conversation we were having yesterday about Bobby Shinton and Alan Shoulder on the way back, and how bad the team was, and low crowds and etc. But yeah, you're right. Stu says, awful performance yesterday. How out? Oh dear God. Okay, and he can stay, but 90% of that squad can just off. They are nowhere near good enough for the Premier League. Mike Ashley's crap. Yeah, we need a major sort out. There's no doubt about that, Stu. Graham says, must go 4-3-3 Tuesday and force the pattern at the game early on. Dan says, Toon Twitter imploded with negativity after the game as well. I'm not sure why the team with the most home points this season should provoke the doom. Dan, that's the problem, isn't it, with Twitter? And I mean, I very rarely comment on a match day because it's just ludicrous, and you can end up wasting your entire Saturday night getting engrossed in somebody arguing the toss about Dubravka's performance, what Kraft was like. Stu's there going again. Kraft is woeful. I could have had these arguments last night on the train. I didn't bother. I sat and spoke to people in the real world, and we discussed things, and it's Twitter's awful at times. It's a great place. When things are going well, but yeah, you just got to take it with a pinch of salt. Knee-jerk reactions. People are going to say this. People are going to say that. It's not a broad spectrum of the fan base. It's a small minority. A lot of people aren't on social media. A lot of people don't go on Twitter. And you know, a lot of people have tried Twitter and decided to jack it in. So yeah, it's a cross section. It's a course. It's a, you know, people having a knee-jerk reaction, but you know, I wouldn't put too much emphasis on the opinions that come off there. I really wouldn't. When you're speaking to one of 3,000 people who go to the match, coming back on the train, you get more of a conversation. People can see it for what it is. TV as well. People watch it on TV, but again, you're only seeing the angles the TV companies want to show you. You get the controversial action of the game repeated, but when you're watching the overall game live, as you all know from going to the home games, you can see what's going on in front of you. You get a better idea. And yeah, I'm not saying that people who don't go to the game don't understand what's going on. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes you can see it better in the flesh than watching it on TV or not watching the game at all, which is what some people on social media do. Okay, big shout out as always to our main sponsors, Spider VPN. For all your internet security, Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of the search list. They are the boys to trust for protecting your computer and everything that is on it. Skipsandbins.com. Thank you to the guys down there as well. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 0191 389 7245 and at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, and the guy John who runs our website NUFCmatters.com. Jab Signature as well. Thank you to you for producing our flyers. Jabsignature.co.uk. Their new range is selling well, so get on and have a look. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, click Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. We are still managing to do 7 shows a week, plus a little bit of Steve Wraith's true crime interviews added to that as well. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your other social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. And also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers such as Podbean. We usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. We're also putting on a few events. This is a great Christmas idea. An evening with Peter Beardsley, an afternoon with Peter Beardsley, at the Time Theatre. Sunday the 30th of January. Tickets are available for that on Groupon or Voucher. Big slashed prices on there. Get yourself on, buy one for yourself, buy somebody a ticket for Christmas. Well worth having a look at that. Thursday the 9th of December, the final food bank event we've got on this year, and that is at Bobix. Bobix.com for your tickets for that. Me and Supermac are in conversation that night, and there'll be a raffle for the food bank as well. The Matchday Bucket is operational 365 days of the year. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the place to make a donation online. And as I mentioned earlier, NUFCmatters.com. The Christmas jumpers are on sale, limited sale on those. Happy Christmas, you cult. And the Peter Beardsley Hark Now Here Christmas jumper from when he scored that wonderful hat-trick on New Year's Day. The Eddie Howe t-shirts are still our best seller. Get your Eddie Howe t-shirts there. Away the lad. And your NUFC Matters membership pack is well worth entering for. £25, you get a cup, you get a scarf, you get a pen, and you get your membership card. You also get entered into the free prize draw. And every month, one of the cult members gets a chance of winning a prize. And we've had 2 big winners so far. So £25 one-off fee to become a cult member. Join today at NUFCmatters.com. Don't forget as well, my book, Every Boy's Dream, is on sale on Amazon and at the Backpage shop. Another little stocking filler. And we've just announced a couple of new events for next year in January. We've got an evening with Steve Watson at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets for that are £12. And that will be on Friday, January the 28th. And on Friday, January the 14th, an evening with Mick Mahoney. Get yourself along to meet Mick Mahoney, super goalie. Tickets for that are £12 as well. You just go to Newcastle Legends and click shop. And the evening we had with Peter Beardsley the other night was fantastic. And he signed some limited edition T-shirts Peter Beardsley there on top of his Subbuteo pedestal. There's only 25 of these available. They are £30 plus package and postage, and they are all individually signed by Peter Beardsley. So get yourself on NUFCmatters.com if you want to grab yourself a bargain. And we will be taking the last bids on the Toon Tickler t-shirt, which all proceeds, of course, go to the food bank. At Steve Wraith on Twitter. Get yourself on there if you want to bid. Bid now, and whatever the bid is in the next 15 minutes will be the winning bid, and that money will all go to the food bank. So £40 at the moment it's at, by Adam McKeown. If you want to bid on that, you've got about 15 minutes left. Okay, let's go back to the chat. Could Dubravka have done more for the goals? First one, tight angle. Second one, a bit hesitant, says John. I've already answered that. What was your take on Dubravka's performance yesterday? Do you think I was right, or do you disagree?
Yeah, I said Dubravka was my man of the match. I thought you just saw why he should be in the net instead of Carl Darlow. First game back after such a long injury. He played very, very well, especially in the first half, made some crucial saves. And yes, he probably could have done better with some of the goals, but ultimately we were going to concede at some point regardless. And no matter who we had in that goal, you could have the best goalkeeper in the world. We weren't going to keep every single shot out of that net. So you could argue the toss and say, oh, maybe he should have done better for the first goal or whatever, but I think he had a very good game and I'm not going to criticise him too much.
Yeah. Holly, would we be better with a conventional back four? I often think we would be, but I'm old-fashioned. What about you, Holly? Would you like to do that?
Yeah, I hate playing with five at the back with the wing backs. I'm just not a fan at all. I think we'd be a lot better with a back four, especially if we change up who's in the defence. If you see the likes of Matt Ritchie and Jamal Lascelles drop from the team, obviously they are suspended, but if they don't come back into the side and we kind of bring the likes of Fernandez and Lewis in, then I think the back four would suit us a lot better.
Yeah, Gary says, I know Ritchie isn't a wing back, but he's got to come out of the team. He keeps getting caught under the ball. Yeah, I mean, not very often you hear me criticise Ritchie, but he had an absolute stinker yesterday for me. And yeah, Holly's not been a fan for the last few weeks. You can't defend the indefensible, and he didn't cover himself in glory. He's out of the team now, so we will see what happens on Tuesday. Ian, our new cult member, he got his membership today. Hi, Stephen Holly. What did you make of Willock's performance? I was at the game and I thought he bottled a lot of the 50-50 challenges. Certainly saw him bottle one, Ian. Holly, what did you make of Willock? He's not he's not doing that well, is he, to be fair?
No, I wasn't impressed at all with Joe Willock. I thought he would have been a lot more up for it. Obviously, Arsenal was his former club. Wants to prove a point, you shouldn't have let us go sort of thing, and he didn't really do that at all. I think Arsenal will be laughing all the way to the bank that we paid 20 million for him. Had a lot of pressure on his shoulders coming into the club, a lot of weight on his shoulders, a lot of pressure put on him, but he really hasn't stepped up this season. And in that game, I thought it was bang average, if not below average, and I thought John Joe Shelby was far better in the midfield than Joe Willock.
Yeah, I would agree. NUFC TV says, have a bad feeling that they will put Clark in on Tuesday for Lascelles. It's funny, I nearly said that earlier. He may well do that, but if he doesn't, I think we need to know why Fernandez isn't getting a game. If he does put Clark back in, we need to know that. That is one thing we need to know. I still think we'd get a result with Clark in the team, mind. I am still confident that we're going to get something out of Norwich. I think we'll get our first win. There's Holly smiling straight away. Graham Coleman says, didn't expect a result at Arsenal. Nevertheless, the two need to win the next two home games. No ifs or buts. You're right. Alan says, Joe Linton back in the jumble sale. Richie's not a left back. How are you, man? Richie was crap, Steve. Yeah, he was. He was crap, Alan. I'm not denying it. He was. I said he was yesterday. Lascelles, rubbish. Yep, I agree. Fraser needs 10 to 15 games. Wilson is getting frustrated, Holly.
Yeah, Fraser, I wasn't impressed with Fraser. I know a few people said that he did all right, but I just thought it was pretty rubbish again. Far too Well, we put him on the back post at one point when we had a cross coming in, and he's like literally the smallest person on the pitch. It clearly wasn't going to work, and then ultimately we found ourselves in a bad position because we almost kind of conceded. Just very, very silly. I don't think that he's particularly great. He will have a chance in this team because we don't have a lot of wealth on the right-hand side, really. Obviously, you can put ASM on that side, but he's a lot better on the left. And, I think that, Matt Ritchie is obviously a lot better as a winger rather than a left back. I think everyone knows that, but we're just kind of stuck in the left back position, and we have been for years.
Yeah, evening all. Had to make a curry, says Roger. What kind of curry is it, Roger? I hope it's a hot one. I do like a madras, lad. Maybe send it for the next away trip in the car. Have to send some bowls and a spoon or a fork. Sydney goes, Lascelles and Ritchie suspended as positive. Dropcraft would be another one. Looking at the next two, win them, and we're likely to be 3 points behind Everton. Yeah, that's it. Be confident, mate. Baker Boy says, I don't think Lascelles, Shelby, and Joe Linton should be anywhere near the first team.
Harsh on Shelby and Joe Linton. I think obviously Shelby's been poor for a while, but I think he's coming into good form now and he's doing very well. So why you would take him out of that team, I really don't know, because as well we don't have a lot of great players on the bench in midfield. So I think Shelby's our best option at the moment. Joe Linton wasn't the best against Arsenal, but I don't think it was bad. Played very well against Brentford, and I think he has got a part to play this season. And Lascelles, I 100% agree. I just want him gone as soon as possible.
Tunes 2020 says Willock's the new Kennedy. Dunno says Willock's definitely not firing. I mean, Paul says Willock was poor yesterday, ball watching, getting beaten at the ball every time. He definitely bottled one of those challenges. Yeah, just so much negativity, I guess, around Willock. Willock got what he wanted, a long deal on a decent wage. Yeah, he's not covering himself in glory, is he?
Not at all. It's very disappointing as well because he had so much kind of praise the season before, a lot of high hopes for Joe Willock, and there's just something not working. But I think you need to spell out to the team, because I think the fact that he's playing every week and he's not having a good game won't be doing anything for his confidence.
Alan says a championship defence which has had zero investment since we were in the championship. True. It's going to take a while for Eddie to turn it around. Definitely a win, possibly two in our next home game. Yeah, I think we can do it. I do really think we can do it. The signs of life. Geordie Tubalife says, Baker Boy, you could not have watched the match. Shelby was man of the match. I don't think he was man of the match. I think Dubravka was. I thought Shelby was okay yesterday. He wasn't the worst he's been. Two shots on target. And certainly was putting a bit more effort in than normal. So he was better. I thought Shelby showed a lot more yesterday, says Dunno. Yeah, I would agree. Greg says, if we're more than 10 points adrift by January, do you think our owners would resist investing? Great question, Greg. No, I think they'll invest. But I was having this conversation with Lewis, and who I met on the train yesterday, about the investment plan, and I still feel that the gap is very important. I think if Newcastle are fourth bottom, I think it'll be easier to attract players, and I think it'll be easier to persuade players to come, because they'll see this fight in the team. They see they've got themselves from 6 points adrift to above the bottom three, and people will buy into the idea. They may come on loan and with a view to a permanent move. I think if we're 6 points adrift still come January, or furthermore 10 points like you say, I think they'll still want to invest. I just think they'll find it difficult to persuade people to come to the club who are, Premiership players. It's going to be interesting. It really is. And I keep pointing out as well that Amanda Mirdad and Jamie Rubin are, they've got 20% between the three of them. All of the major decisions that are going to be made at our football club will still have to be overlooked and decided and agreed on by the major shareholder, which is PIF. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the whole structure works, and who is, people, who is going to make those decisions. They're going to make it as a collective, but PIF have the final say, really, don't they? They've got 80%. That's the way I would look at it. So, yeah, what about you, Holly, on that? If we're investing, if we're more than 10 points adrift, do you think the owners would resist investing?
I don't think that they would resist investing because they want to. I think it'll be the case that you said, that we won't actually be able to attract the players, therefore we won't obviously spend the money. But I think in the summer then you'd see obviously mass investment, and I think the need to try and do that the best that they possibly can, which I'm sure they will, because if they then think, which would be ridiculous and it won't happen, but if they then think, we're not going to manage to turn it around, it's too late now, the fans would really, really get on their back. And I could understand that, because ultimately we need to at least try and stay up. And that's what we haven't seen in previous windows. The summer window gone, when Ashley was trying to sell the club, he didn't even make an attempt to try and improve the squad. And that was the biggest frustration.
I love Jan's idea. Win the next 2 games and then cancel, due to snow, all December games. And Bob is your uncle.
I would take that, but I don't think we'll be that lucky.
Classic. Gary says, good evening, Stephen Holly. There is one thing I'd like to say about NUFC, which you can feel the presence of the squad, that they are working together for a better performance, and we can all see that.
Yeah, I think the squad are working better together. I think it's so difficult, and that's what confused me against Brentford. Is you saw that obviously the attack was good and the defense was struggling, and then I felt the opposite against Arsenal. So I'm like not really sure where it's going wrong sometimes.
Blue Moon Boy says, do you think we'll be relegated? I do, but how should be kept on to get us straight back up? Can you ask us that next Sunday, Blue Moon Boy? Because I think if we lose these next two games, I can't see we're getting out of it. Holly?
Well, obviously, if we won the next two games, then it would be a very different answer. But currently, yeah, I think we will be relegated, and if that changes, then fantastic. But that's my mindset for a few weeks. But if you went off gut instinct now, you'd say we'd stay up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I still think there's plenty of time to turn it round. I mean, Watford got beat today, I think. There's still time, but it's about confidence as well. If we go into these two games and we don't get the points that we need, I don't even know if one win, is going to be good enough. I think it's, suddenly the results go against it, and they have been over the last few weeks. If we find ourselves 9 points behind, oh God, I just can't see it. I can't see it. I've been in relegation fights before, and there's a team there that's clearly trying, but clearly maybe it's not good enough. But it's a big week, biggest 7 days in the history for a while. Paul says 6 points, it's 2 wins. I think if we're around 5 points from safety in January, I think we've got a chance of staying up if we spend on the squad. Again, comes back down to what I was saying though about those players. Who are you going to attract if you're 5 points adrift? Who are you going to attract? Paul says, good goal by Andy Carroll. He did score for Redden, didn't he? Was it Redden at the weekend? Great show, by the way, Holly and Steve. Thanks. Thank you. Tom says, question for Holly, in January, what sort of players do you think might leave Newcastle?
I don't think we'll see many players leave. If they do leave, you might see 1 or 2 defenders leaving. I think in the midfield, I think we might see a midfielder go. I think someone, and I know this probably won't make you the happiest, but I think you could see someone like a Matt Ritchie leave, because I think his time's kind of coming to a close at the club. I feel like obviously he's had a few bad games, played out of position fair enough, but I don't think he's going to get that chance on the wing. And I think obviously he's getting on a bit now. He's into his 30s, so I think someone like a Ritchie could leave. Players that we've had for a few years in the Championship and aren't getting a look in, but I don't think we'll see a massive kind of switch around.
I don't think we'll see Ritchie leaving in January. I could see him leaving in the summer, but I don't think we'll see him leaving then. I think he's too much of a positive influence around the dressing room, whether he's playing or not. I think Eddie Howe knows that, and I think he'll need blue chip players around him and experienced players around him in this relegation fight. That's my view on that. But I think Holly's right. I think there'll be players coming in. I'll be surprised if we see anybody going out. But watch this space.
At this rate, I wouldn't be surprised to see Fernandes leave.
Yeah, he's not getting a game. He's not getting a game. They've tried in the past to get rid of Dwight Gale. There's clearly an issue there. But yeah, let's see. I mean, you would like to think when Eddie Howe come in, there was a clean slate for all. But at this moment in time, I think we'll know again better after these 2 games if Dwight Gale and Fernandes don't feature, that they're surplus to requirements and something's clearly gone on, or something's not been told to the fans as what the problem is with these players. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Tom is optimistic. He's going for a 3-1 win on Tuesday night. Tells us, I believe 1 win will set us on our way back. Confidence will flood back. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree, Tel. I think, Newcastle are the same as every other team. Bit of confidence goes a long way. Confidence in football. Keegan said it many a time. And that's why he was a king of man management and building players up, and they achieved. And you just get that win. It's that elusive win. 13 games now without a win. It's into the top 5 or 6, I think, of all time. of worst run since the start of the season. Need to break that jinx on Tuesday. Paul says PIF chuck money at everything. They've got shares in. Don't worry about investment. It will definitely come. Okay. I've been really paid off since yesterday, but after listening to you, Steve and Holly, I'm now like, yeah, we can do this. How are the lads? Oh, I'm glad we're giving you a bit of a mental health boost there, mate. Paul says, what's happened to the head down road runner Almiron? Yeah, he's not really featured a great deal. I mean, he came on yesterday. Difficult game to judge him in. I think he could still play his part, and I don't know who the guy was who was standing next to us yesterday who chatted to us throughout the game. Apologies, but for not knowing who you are. But we were talking about this, and I pointed to the fact that Almiron played well when we had Rondon, Perez, and him playing in that little triangle. You know what I mean? And when he's got a system that he can play to, he's not a bad player, and he played well then, and he got a few goals, and he's dangerous, and he's got a bit of pace. But at the minute, and we're in transition, Eddie Howe's only had a couple of games. He's still just the same. But yeah, I mean, I still think we can get something out of Almiron and Holly.
Yeah, I do. I'm a big fan of Miggy. It's sad to see the kind of player that he's turned into after coming into the club and being such a breath of fresh air, really changing up the game. I think it's the same problem the likes of Callum Wilson are having in the attack, is that these players don't really play well when they're isolated, and Almiron's often isolated. He can't really get in the game. He runs with no real purpose. But if he found like a front three or some kind of formation that gelled well together and they could play with each other, then I think he would come back into good form. But that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Dan says Dwight Gale's sitting on his contract. Funny how it comes to transfer and he gets injured. He knows what he's doing. Fair point. Mark says, let's be real. We are rock bottom. The only way is up or down. Very true. Darren says, for those who don't know, Newcastle versus Norwich is on Amazon Prime. Thanks for that. Doug says, was it allegedly Fernandez leaking information to the media? Was he the mole? Who knows? End Gale's contract, says Dan. Stephen says, with our backs against the wall, the last thing I would want is the doom and gloom merchants watching my back. Very true. Yeah, very true. There's a lot of that goes on, especially on social media. Mark says, Miggy has been bruised. Yeah, him and a few other players, it has to be said. Alan says, if we did go down, they would not lose many players because we could not get rid of them through their wages. Yeah, it's, again, in the bizarre contracts that Ashley used to hand out. Ryan says Miggy is still better stat-wise than ASM. Yeah, he flattened to deceive again yesterday. He wasn't really in the game, was he, ASM?
No, he wasn't. And I think maybe when it's kind of away games like that, where you're probably not going to get anything when you're playing the likes of Arsenal or a Man City or Chelsea, someone like that, you should probably just put him on the bench because it's risking an injury and he's pretty much wasted in the game.
Yeah, definitely. We are not going down, says Sydney. Good, more confidence. Can't help but feel Jones has fallen out with Fernandez. Interesting.
That's one thing I think, that's why I was a little bit worried when Graham Jones was staying on, because I think then it's not really a full fresh start, because regardless whether Eddie Howe says he's going to take influence or not, I think Graham Jones will influence some of his decisions about who goes in the team.
I'm going to chuck this at you. TalkSport, our favourite channel, said if you this was Gabby Abonglahor, of course, a fully confessed expert on Newcastle United. He said, if you offer someone 40k a week for Newcastle or 30k a week to play for Brentford, they'd pick Brentford because, let's be honest, players don't want to live in Newcastle. What did you make of that, Holly?
Ridiculous argument, very lazy kind of comments to make when it shows you've got a lack of knowledge, no weight to back it up. And I think it's an argument that's been made time and time again by people with an agenda against Newcastle who are a bit pissed off that we now have investment and we have a chance of getting success in the future. And I think that's why they're just kind of lashing out saying stuff like that. But I think it's rubbish. I think it's a load of rubbish. The project's there. If the form improves, you'll see players that do want to come to Newcastle. Not now, but that's because of the league position we're in. Not anything about where the city is or anything like that. And I think, to be honest with you, you can't really say that when you haven't played for the city. You could ask the likes of Warren Barton, Rob Lee, and they tell you a very different story.
Yeah, I would agree. Would you see St Maximin staying if, as Matthew asks, if we went down?
Yes, I think he would. If for a year, if we got promoted first attempt, I think he'd happily stay. But obviously, if we didn't, then he would be gone. But I think we could manage to keep hold of him for a year.
Darren, no, I didn't hear that. He says, did anyone hear Darren Lewis, the journalist, say on Sky Sports there's an agenda against Newcastle from referees? Would you say there was an agenda? I mean, yesterday the referee was poor. I felt as he was a bit of a homer, Stuart Atwell, yesterday. Everything went for them. Certainly on yesterday's performance, you could see him having an argument for that.
Yeah, it feels like that sometimes, and I think VAR at the start of the season, it felt like that was just constantly going against us as well. That's calmed down a little bit, but that referee was poor yesterday. Does feel like that sometimes, but I think we are also just rubbish, to put it bluntly. So, we're not getting results regardless, but we should have had a few free kicks that just weren't given yesterday for sure.
JJ is talking about hat-trick hero Anderson this week. He says, I'd love to see Anderson given a go. He's a young Ross Barkley. We've talked about giving him a go on this show before, and Eddie Howe might do. You never know. He's certainly spending a lot of time going around watching all the games, Holly, isn't he?
Yeah, yes, and I would love to see Elliot Anderson come into the side. Big risk kind of putting in youngsters, switching about the team when you're in a relegation battle. But if the players aren't performing and we're not winning games, what's the harm in the reality of it?
Doug says more Gobby than Gabby. I like it. Alan says Graham Jones has a lot to answer for. The players are not playing. It's weird that we had a Graham Jones love-in last year, and now that people are questioning Graham Jones's tactics, motivation, question marks as to whether it's him and fell out with Fernandez. It is interesting to see. Gabby's from my neck of the woods, says Julie, but my God, a football genius, he is not. I would agree with that, Julie. Mark, yeah, you're right. He says, TalkSport try to wind us up all the time. Don't respond. I won't. Geordie Tumbalay says, that was something, a private conversation. Name any TalkSport pundits who you rate as a decent. I can name none. I do like Jim White. I've got a soft spot for Jim White, Derek. He's all right, and I've met him personally, and he's had us on the show, and he's always been very fair to me. So I do like Jim White, and I know he's a presenter. He's impartial. Other than that, there's not many, mate, who I've got time for. I wonder who Gerard had in mind from NUFC. He has an interest, and who knows, Gary? I don't know anything about that. Anderson is injured, says Crixus. Yes, he. Dan now says he isn't injured. I don't know whether he is or not. Saw that by Dan Lewis. Absolutely true. We're only getting the obvious decisions. No 50-50s are going our way, says Tom. Stephen says, will TalkSport have a discussion on the rights and wrongs of Arsenal's Rwanda connection? I doubt it very much. What are the Suns saying? We are the smelliest fan. Don't read that rag, Roger. Don't read that. Don't get sucked into that rubbish. You might as well read the sport. 29 says, get Jeff Stelling on the phone to talk sport. Title of Pong on the Tyne, was it, Roger? I've never seen it, mate. I don't intend to read it at all. Still think as a leaving gift to the pigeon Charlie, we should have made him do the bleep test, says Paul. That's funny. Brian Sweeney says, I really like Howe, but I don't think he's got what it takes for us. Hopefully he can get enough out of us. I think he'll get sacked for next season. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I think I do have faith in Eddie Howe, and if we do go down, I don't think that'll be his fault, because I think the damage was done before the new owners came in by Ashley and Steve Bruce, and in the Championship, I think he'd be a very good manager if it did come to that.
Yeah, it's just weird, isn't it? It's just a weird scenario at the moment. It just doesn't feel real. The takeover, the manager's in. It just feels as if everything's happened so quickly. It's just going to take a bit of getting used to for people. But I think Howe will do okay. I do. Fernandez may still struggle from long COVID, says Derek. Good point. Yeah, there's always that feeling of controversy from us as Newcastle fans, but it might just be something as simple as that. If we have a sponsor embargo, can we be sponsored by Disney or Saudi, own them outright? Maybe you don't know. I'd find Miggy if he turns backwards towards our goal more than 5 times in a game, says JJ. Roger says he doesn't read the Sun. It was on Twitter. All right, okay, I'll have a look, mate. I'll have a look for that. For them 3 games, Graham Jones was in charge. He was still playing Bruce ball. Lots of people feeling that Graham Jones still is having a major influence. Southern press views on the Northeast is bordering on racism, says Stephen. And lads and lasses, we won't go down. Don't worry. Trust me, we'll stay up. Lots of positivity in the chat, which is really nice, and keep it going. We need to be positive. We need to be supportive of the manager and the football club at this moment in time. Good idea, Dan. We have been a Mickey Mouse team for the last 14 years. Not going to argue with that. 3 things top of my list: Lascelles, Jones, and the Sports Direct signs. That's his to-go list. That is. Lee says, strange how envy manifests itself. We are grateful to be Geordies and have a sense of belonging. They are just jealous. Lee, we'll leave it tonight with those words of wisdom. Ryan is asking me Spencer versus Crawford winner. I'm going Crawford, man. I'm going points with Crawford. If we played like the last couple of games all season, we would have a few wins. It's going to be in the right direction. Okay, Mark, you were the last person to comment. Holly, as always, that hour just flies over too quickly. Go back and enjoy your relaxing Sunday, and I will see you on Tuesday night at the Dog and Parrot with Malcolm. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care.
Take care. Bye.